Let's get Adriano back on the line, shall we? I want to start by talking about Roma. That was really poor, I have to say. You're conceding 7 goals, 7-1 they lost. That's not good enough, and it's not the first time this season, Roma. They put in some good performances and then some dreadful ones.
They've had their stretches of form this season, Roma, but they've also had their very poor runs, and you just feel this is one of those moments. Their third 7-1 defeat in the last 12 years, their third of the century as well. So they're used to a 7-1 from time to time. Obviously suffered a couple in the Champions League against Manchester United and Bayern Munich in seasons gone by. But this one in the Coppa Italia midweek, just disastrous. And while it just adds fuel to the fire for this weekend's enormous fixture against AC Milan and Gennaro Gattuso, who has problems of his own. So an intriguing match because you have 2 managers under fire. You have 2 teams that are in the race for the top 4, both currently 4th and 5th respectively. And to be honest, I have no idea how this match will end up. It really could end either way. Piontek, of course, has come in for Milan, and he's been the star of the show as Milan took care of Napoli in the simultaneous round of the Coppa Italia, eliminating them by 2-0, particularly with that second goal, which was an absolute stunning strike by the Polish player who was recently signed by Genoa. But in terms of this match, the Stadio Olimpico, Roma home match, tough to predict. Milan won the reverse fixture earlier on in the season with a 95th minute winner by Cutrone, 2-1. So on that form, tough to read anything into it. Really anyone's ball game, but an important result because the winner, well, they'll be outright 4th come the end of the round.
Yeah, exactly. We won't want to miss that one. I've got a sneaky suspicion there'll be some goals. And, of course, Roma will be hoping not to concede 7 of them, for sure. Let's talk about Juventus and Parma. Will Juventus just march on? What does happen to Juventus and Barcelona and these top sides, dare I say Liverpool and Manchester City, is now, with 2 weeks away the return of Champions League, one eye naturally starts to look to that because there's so much money, knockout, home and away. So you would be forgiven if Juventus started saying, well, Serie A we've got in the bag. Let's start focusing in on Champions League. Of course, the problem with that is even the greats like Juventus, you can't take everything for granted.
That is right. And despite the 11-point lead, they're well clear of Napoli, of course, and the chasing pack. They have one too many issues to my liking at the moment, Neil. And in the lead up to that first leg against Atletico Madrid coming up, I'm a little fearful for Juve at this point. There is a massive crisis defensively with news over the past few days that their 2 main central defenders, Leonardo Bonucci and Giorgio Chiellini, will both all but missed the first leg of that Atleti clash. Chiellini given half a chance to return. Bonucci certainly out and maybe out of the second as well. Keep in mind that just days ago as well, they sold their 3rd best central defender, Mehdi Benatia, to a Qatari side. So that's their 3 best defenders gone. So they're a bit light defensively. They tried to sign a deadline day defender in the transfer window. That didn't come through. So they're down to 1 fit natural centre-back, Daniele Rugani, who is a young star in the making, but has been short of game time this season. So they are there for the taking, and I do fear for them in a couple of their upcoming Serie A fixtures, particularly this weekend against Parma, a side that have had no success against Juve in recent games. However, they do have Gervinho, a striker well known to fans across Italy, across England, across world football. The Ivory Coast, former Ivory Coast international, has plenty of pace about him, and that could be very tough for, I suppose, a fresh-looking Juve defence to hold out. I am tipping Juve will get the points. I am tipping Juve will march on, but a danger game for me here against a Parma side who have been in okay form of late and are knocking on the door of a top-half spot.
OK, well, there you heard from Adriano, who's pretty sharp on these things. He's pointing out Juve probably in the lowest point of their season so far, and they might be vulnerable. So a potential banana skin for sure. Napoli, likewise, that was disappointing for them in the Cup. They're at home against Sampdoria. And we've discussed these guys before. So now that's Cup gone. That's UEFA Champions League gone. They can't realistically, unless they start making indents into the Juventus lead, win the league. So where does that leave Napoli now? I mean, are they just chasing, confirming a Champions League position for next year?
Yeah, I think that's locked in the Champions League position. I think they're outright second and will certainly finish there. They had a couple of disappointing performances against AC Milan in both the league and cup. No goals in either of those games. Very disappointing by their standards. But I do have the answer to that question, Neil, and I believe it will come in the form of the Europa League. I believe that Carlo Ancelotti will view the Europa League for Napoli as the one to win. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Napoli will win the Europa League this season. I think that they are the best squad remaining in that competition. I know that Chelsea and Arsenal are the two favourites to win, but Chelsea and Arsenal do have issues of their own. For me, Napoli and Ancelotti, given his European pedigree and all of his experience, they will win that competition this season. They will finish second in Serie A. And I think that will really launch them well into Ancelotti's second season in charge in the 2019-20 campaign. So I'm disappointed for Napoli because they deserve to be through to the round of 16 in the Champions League. In my opinion, they were very unfortunate yet again to be eliminated in the group stage. But with some interesting fixtures to come, that double-header against Zurich, both away and home in the Europa League, I think they'll cruise through to the round of 16 rather, and I really think they'll consolidate themselves as the second-best team in Italy yet again this season.
Okay, high praise indeed there for Napoli and their chances there. I want to talk about this chap. I've got to get his name right. Fabio Quagliarella. Tell us about him. That's an interesting story. Without a shadow of doubt, is the big story coming out of Italy this week.
What a story. And it's Fabio Quagliarella who has stolen the headlines for the last 11 games. Goals in the last 11 games equals the longest ever consecutive run of goals in matches. And coincidentally, the man who equaled, Gabriel Batistuta, of course, former Fiorentina and Roma legend, former Argentine icon, he's actually turned 50 today, Batistuta. So Quagliarella looking to break that mark this weekend. Quagliarella's actually celebrated his birthday midweek as well. He's turned 37. Looking forward to this one. Quagliarella goes back to Napoli, one of his former clubs, his city of birth, with an opportunity to score against a Napoli side and break that record at his age would be quite remarkable. So I think the world football lovers' eyes will be on this match, a rare opportunity for an aging striker to create some history, which I don't think we'll see broken for a very, very long time. So a special match in Naples this weekend, and this is certainly a match that I'm not anticipating a comfortable 3 points for Napoli. I think Sampdoria can really push them all the way here. So despite my praise for Ancelotti and Napoli, I think Sampdoria could be on for maybe a high-scoring draw, maybe a fortunate win if Quagliarella can step up and continue that goal-scoring form.
Well, you touched on it there, ageing strikers. He touched on Batistuta turning 50. I can tell you, life only starts at 50, so don't worry about that. I'm sure that guy will score as well. So my producer tells me. Now, what have the Italian Federation announced? Because there's an interesting announcement they've put out.
Yes, absolutely. So they've given the green light to a decision that they've been discussing for some time now. And that decision, in short, Neil, is that the Serie A will look, not confirmed yet, but they will look to reduce the number of teams in the Italian top flight season after next. So from the 2020-2021 campaign, if the clubs at the time approve, which they certainly will in my opinion, the Italian top flight will reduce itself from 20 teams back to 18, where it once were in the late 90s. So the German Bundesliga obviously did that, I think, a decade ago or so now. Serie A looking to follow suit. And I think the decrease in matches, the ability to really enhance the depth and quality of the competition, just given where Italian football has been at, particularly over the last decade, I think it's a much-needed move for the Italian Serie A, and I think it could benefit them going forward. So some big news there coming out of the Italian headquarters over the past few days.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. Good decision. At the end of the day, life, of course, about is quality, not quantity. So we appreciate that. Adriano, always a pleasure. Have a good snooze. Don't forget, of course, he broadcasts all the way from Australia. So for him, it's extremely late there. We appreciate his input. Now, DSTV Now. I told you about Jukes earlier on. You've got to download this because this is the PVR in your pocket. It means that you can watch, yes, your football, but your rugby. And, of course, the Six Nations has started. In a couple of moments, I'm going to talk about the superheroes in Super Rugby. But download DSTV Now because it is your PVR in your pocket and you can watch anything, whether it be series, whether it be sport, whether it be movies, whatever you like, it is, of course, an opportunity for you to catch up on what's happening. Now, let me just do this because the superheroes are going to come on in. Look at them. Here they are. Where do you want to be on the weekend? There's only one place, and that is we are hosting a special double header of matches featuring the Sharks and the Lions and the Bulls versus the Stormers. That, of course, is this Sunday from 13:55, 5 minutes to 2 o'clock at the Cape Town Stadium. So it's time for us to remind you that the superheroes have landed. And Cape Town, go out and support them. A double header. You don't want to miss it. Superhero time, the return of Super Rugby.